Vladimir Putin's partial mobilization of hundreds of thousands of reservists last week has brought the war in Ukraine across the border to Russia. This comes as Russians revolt against the order in an unusual but bold move. In just a matter of days, the decree has triggered outrage, protests, and acts of violence across the country. Demonstrations can be seen from the biggest cities in the country to the most remote regions of Russia. It has also sparked a fearful exodus of men of fighting age from the country. With us now to unpack the situation is Mr. John Hardy, Russian Program Deputy Director at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Sir, welcome to Forum Daily.
Great to be with you.
So, what does Mr. Putin's partial mobilization entail for Russians, and who would be called upon?
Sure. So, in theory, it's only supposed to call up folks with prior military experience, and especially folks with certain specialties that are needed in Ukraine. In practice, we're seeing that a vast many more categories of people are being called up. Folks without military experience, even in some cases, disabled people, things of that nature. It seems that the Ministry of Defense has sort of given quotas to the regions and said, okay, you take it from here. And in response, the regional authorities are sort of scrambling to hit their targets and just vacuuming up as many people as they can in a short period of time.
Now, initially, this order was to call up 300,000 potential troops, but there is a lot of concern around the actual number of men being mobilized in this order and whether they are in fighting condition or not, as you have mentioned. So tell us a little bit more about what you've been hearing in terms of the numbers here.
Right. So, as you just mentioned, the public number was 300K. There's been reports about, a million, 200,000. We'll see. Regardless, Russia, the current Russian army is not the Soviet army. It's designed for mass mobilization. So it's going to take time, some months, to hit, many hundreds of thousands of mobilized troops. So this will happen in phases, regardless of the ultimate number. And I suspect over the next month, 2 months, 3 months, we'll start to get a sense of exactly how far they'll go. And it might be that Moscow decides in 2 months' time, hey, we're going to need another 100, 200K, whatever, and then they'll go from there. I think the big question is, overall, will they stick to the, specialized, kind of narrowly targeted mobilization of people with military experience, or will they really go much broader? It's hard to tell just from, TikTok videos and whatnot from mobilized Russians, whether these examples of people with no military experience being mobilized are isolated cases, or if this is going to be a significant chunk of the mobilized population.
All right, Mr. Hardy, tell us a little bit more about the situation on the ground in the country. What has been the response so far from Russians?
Well, there's been protests in a number of cities. However, they've been relatively small scale. I think the first day or so there was maybe 1,300 detained protesters, and the Russian authorities are actually giving many of them draft summons, probably as a way to deter a future protest. So I think that the Kremlin seems to be banking on some public opposition, but not really a critical level. So at least right now, they're probably feeling okay about it. I don't think anything we've seen so far is beyond the Russian government's ability to handle.
All right, sir, just about a minute left here, but in other major news, we know the referendum voting on annexation ends today in the Russian-occupied regions of Ukraine, but we do know the outcome is widely expected to be predetermined. So how would this likely impact the ongoing war? Could you see Ukrainians in these potentially annexed regions being forced to fight for Russia?
Well, so in the areas that were already occupied, before the full-scale invasion, there's been a lot of that, and I think actually the Russians have probably forcibly mobilized just about everybody they can there. They're probably just about out on manpower in those areas. Yet maybe they'll try to do the same thing in the others. There's been some reports of that going on, or at least preparations for it. But we'll have to see. In general, I don't think that'd be a great strategy for Russia. These people, for obvious reasons, most of them are not going to be very motivated to fight for the Russians.
All right, Mr. Hardy, lots to keep our eyes on as this war unfolds. Again, thank you so much for joining us today on Forum Daily.
Thank you.